Well, we are officially live now, so we should probably do our sound check just to make sure that.
Okay. Hopefully.
Let me tab over and check and see. All right, go ahead and start talking. And this is second sound check. And this is second sound check. Okay, try it again. I had something muted. I had you muted.
Hello. How are you doing?
Check. Okay, try it again. I had something muted.
Why are you all blotchy now?
I had
What
you
the
muted.
heck? Hello. You look like you're inside a video game.
Okay, try it again. I had something muted.
Why are you? Is that
okay.
Just
there? Audio is fixed. We are good.
Are they seeing you the way I see you, or what? Are they seeing you the way I see you? Or...
Are you watching just Discord or are you watching the stream?
I'm watching Discord. Should I not watch that?
No, you can watch on Discord. That's fine. Discord.
But they're not seeing what I'm seeing.
No,
right? They're seeing it clear. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Good, thank goodness, because you look like one of those old-time full motion videos from like Sega CD era.
No.
Your background looks so sharp, and you look like somebody filmed you and digitized you. It's like, whoa, what happened?
Well, my background is definitely sharper than I am. That is 100% true.
Well, you created it, so you must be, sharper than it, right?
I could pretend.
There you go. Funny.
But yeah, the stream is, this was my first 1080p at 60 frames per second stream. So
sweet.
We should actually be coming
you're
through
going
really good quality. Well, once I get my 4K camera, I'm gonna go that way.
I mean, you're going like the console next gen, and not next gen PC. That's been that way for years. We'll save that for 2 minutes, right?
Something like that.
It's funny.
I am going to replay the intro one more time at 6:30 because we were early. Sorry, anybody who's waiting. Don't think anybody is waiting. But if you're watching...
It's hey, we were late for being early. That's what SpongeBob would say.
It's true.
It's better to be early than not to be at all, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of podcasts in my future now. Just thinking about it.
Yeah, last week felt crazy for me. Last week and the week before that, just everything seems to just roll together. Rolling the intro. I'm actually really happy with how the intro turned out.
Yeah, definitely.
That took a lot of work. Because I didn't know how to do any of that before I did it.
It's awesome.
But we're officially live now, so welcome everyone.
Hey, welcome
to the
Hopefully my mic is fixed.
Oh yeah,
BlusTech help me out.
We're going at about the same amount
Sweet.
Now.
Sweet.
Welcome to the everybody. First episode of Tech Warp, a new podcast series that myself and Mike are going to be doing about tech and Trek and whatever comes up. We'll get sidetracked, trust me.
Oh, definitely, especially with the stuff that you have in the background indicating that we both like Star Trek. So
yes.
We got sidetracked when I was interviewing you. My goodness.
Yeah, I think we talked for like
here.
2.5 hours when you interviewed me.
It was awesome. It was.
How long was the interview that you published of me? Like 45 minutes or an hour?
Yeah, it was like 49 minutes, 50 minutes, and then but we talked like a half an hour before and a half an hour after, or something like that.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
it was good talks
But
though.
yeah, it was awesome. What's the first topic we have for today?
I believe that the first topic that we have for today is going to be the console settings that we're hearing about for
Yeah,
graphics.
strange rumors and reports of these different settings. First started with the Demon Souls, and I think another one just came out and said the same thing. It might have been AC Ragnarok or whatever the new one is. They say, you can have two different settings. You can have um, performance or graphical. So I wanted to ask you about that since you're the tech guru. We always, and I know they always overpromise, but we always hear this touting about like, oh, this next generation, we won't have to worry. Everything will be in 4K 60 FPS. And not that I expect it all to be 4K 60 FPS, but why do they have two settings? Why don't they just shoot for a target and reach it? I don't know. What are your
Okay,
thoughts on that?
they're trying to Super Jeremy World. Which mic is this?
Hey, I wonder why he's here.
um. Anywho, the graphics setting. I just heard. I just heard about another game. It's a shooter game. I don't remember which one, but they're specifically making the single player is going to be super graphically, like high graphical
Yes.
fidelity, and then the
Yes.
multiplayer at low FPS, and then the multiplayer is going to be 1080p at 120 hertz
Okay.
for competitive gamers. And I think that's
Yes.
where the
Yes.
distinction will lie, is that those who want to be competitive in competitive games will be able to flip it to performance mode so that they can react faster, and those who just want a graphically pleasing adventure can flip it to graphics mode, where it's going to be a little slower, but you won't have to have immediate
That makes
reaction time.
sense when you're in a single player environment, you do have to react, but you don't have to react as fast as when you're competing. And those frames per second, like you said, like I mean, for PC, they've always had those kind of dial-in settings where you could, like you were telling me earlier this week, you could adjust these things and get your frames per second up high, and it really helps with reaction and stuff. I've seen videos where people are like, "Why is this guy just standing still?" And then all of a sudden they're dead because the frame rate just,
Yep.
especially like you said on multiplayer online, you'd probably rather have it at 1080 so you can get it, a constant stream of it.
And that's
But
why
I just,
the companies
yeah,
are advertising 120 FPS. Now, keep in mind,
yeah.
in no literature anywhere for either Sony or Microsoft does it say 120 FPS at 4K. Nowhere.
No, no, yeah. It's
People
like
think
this.
that's
It's like
happening, but it's not.
no, and you know what it is? It's just like when you look online or if you go to a store and it says, we have a sale up to 95% off. And then people go in, they're like, why isn't everything 95% off? No, it says up to. So it could be
Hmm.
1% off, 20% off. And there might be this one tiny little item that's 95% off and it's like $10. Now it's, whatever, 50 cents. But the thing is, they use those kind of terminologies. But the thing that got me is, like, I think it was Assassin's Creed, and it might have been a few others. We're saying 30 FPS and I guess like you said, it will be the single player stuff. But I kind of wanted to. I wish 60 was like the bare minimum, and then listen, graphics be darned, get it to 60 because a lot of older games were at 60 or could be now at 60. Get it at 60, and anything else is just cherry on top. But that's not the way they work these games. They make them
No.
super looking great, which I don't like, by the way. But why do you think they do that?
Well, okay, speaking for this being a new console generation release, none of
Uh-huh.
these games are on like the UE5 engine, the brand new engines, the brand new gaming
Yeah,
engines.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they have to be able to make up that graphical difference somehow. So they need to jam as much graphics into these first initial launch titles that are on the older engines to make it feel like there's a difference between the PS5 and the PS4 or the Xbox Series X and the Xbox One X. God, Microsoft, stop with the X's.
I've always said when they made the 360, they should have just called it the Xbox 3. And if anyone said what happened, we just say we had a prototype and we skipped it. So that way it would be parody, you know?
I would have just stuck with the code names.
Or the code names. I always liked the Dolphin, the Nintendo Dolphin. I think that was the GameCube.
Like, I would have bought a console called the Xbox Scarlet or the Xbox Scorpion or, you know, any of the code names. Like
Scorpion was a cool name, and Scarlet, yeah.
Yeah. Or Xbox Lockhart. We know that's not going to be called Lockhart when it launches. It's going to be called Series S. Because that's not going to be confused with Series X.
Yeah. I don't know why. I know why they did the series part, because then they could add, like you said, the X and the S. But I just don't like this naming convention. Everybody knows PlayStation 5 is the fifth one. I don't know why. I know why they didn't want to go Xbox 2 versus PlayStation 3, but it's just silly. It's silly. They should have, the original Xbox should have been called the Xbox 2, and if they asked which the original one was, they should have said the Dreamcast was the original Xbox.
I wouldn't have even, if I could go back in time and I had to only deal with this, what we're talking about right now, I would not have even marketed the original Xbox as a gaming console. I would have marketed it as a computer.
Oh, you know, like Alienware was trying, or not Alienware. Who was trying to do that? Steam, the Steam box.
The Steam box. I would have marketed the Xbox as a, you know, pre-Steam box to, like, you know, and I wouldn't change. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything about it. Literally, it would be the exact same thing. But then you're not competing against Sony. You're competing against computers. And that would have been a completely different thing.
There'd be a lot of people that'd be like, I don't want to buy. And that might be a topic for next week, because I just saw something today, but I didn't get enough research on it. The Ryzens have these little mini things. So maybe we'll talk about that along with the Xbox, you know, like it's a self-contained kind of thing. But back to the performance and stuff like that. I do kind of understand what you're saying, that they're not on these Unreal Engine 5 yet. But let me ask you this: with Unreal Engine 5, will we get that kind of bump that without all this extra work?
100%.
Okay.
I mean, okay, so that being said, your frame rates on the best graphics settings for the console are still not going to be amazing by any means. In fact, they're going to get lower. So, like, if you were playing your multiplayer at 120 frames per second at 1080p, and you want the best 1080p graphics now for your multiplayer with the new engines, you're going to be looking at 60.
Okay.
So,
well, what about things that are 30? I don't want it to go below 30. Will they be able to?
It won't.
Keep, for the single player.
They will do things to keep it from going below 30 for sure.
So they're going to have to do graphical tricks like they did with this generation.
Well, they've had to do them.
Yeah,
they've had to do them with all games that have ever been on console. Because and that's the argument for having a computer is, no matter what a console does, it's never going to have as good a graphics, even if the console has more power available than a computer. It will never have as good of graphics, because they have to optimize for a certain frame rate on consoles, because every single console single console has to be able to perform at 60 frames per second. So you're not going to have 100% ray tracing here, or you're not going to have perfect shadows or perfect skin texture there, you know. So it's always a trade-off.
Digital Foundry was already showing in things like Gran Turismo that they were using selective ray tracing. Not it wasn't turned on all the time, which I'm fine with that. I didn't notice, like they stop the camera and they count they count all the stuff to make sure it's 4K, etc. But I would never do that. So I'm fine with those kind of things. But what I was thinking when you were saying that, a pretty good computer, right? Pretty good, right? If you close systemed it and you had it locked down at 1,500, that could be a beast. Like
1,500, yeah.
Systems, yeah. If these systems were 1,500 closed systems, they'd be a beast. Now, our phones are $1,000 now, but we have a payment plan because we're on, like Verizon or AT&T or what, or Sprint, right? Why don't they do something like that? Like, they should do that. Like this small thing.
There's too much risk.
Not this one, but
there's too much risk financially. I mean, phone companies, everybody's buying one of these. Like literally every human on the planet is buying one of these. Not every human's going to buy. That's crazy
that they got us to buy something that's like $1,000 nowadays, and we think nothing of it, and we upgrade them every couple of years. It's crazy.
Those upgrades screw you. But we'll
try
not
to
get
hold
into
off
that
as much as I can. But I will tell you this: my son, he loves his Apple products, and every time he has an upgrade, he does upgrade to the highest one. So I can't help it. And then I end up paying more. But listen, you do what you can for your kids.
Yeah. One of the things, like, the thing about okay, so I'm gonna go a little bit of an aside here and go to console versus PC for just a smidge. And
yeah, go ahead.
From the console side of the argument, you can't argue from the console side of the argument, because until you've played on a $1,500 computer the same game, or a $2,000 computer, you don't understand the difference. So
definitely.
And the big thing about like justifying the cost of a computer compared to a console is that the computer is not locked into just playing games or streaming video or whatever. You can do anything on a computer. So trying to compare them is kind of stupid. So when I see console people, your $2,000 computer can do better than a $300 console. Show me a $300 launch console.
Well, the NES. No, I don't know.
$89.99 without a game. That's what I learned that in my stream on Tuesday.
Yeah, you were talking about that. Your streams are awesome, by the way. The two brother podcast that you do, that's awesome. But here's a question that I have for you. The Steam box didn't work, and there are probably a ton of reasons why. But
that doesn't count, Jeremy. Jeremy says the Amico is under $300. That doesn't count. My phone's better than the Amico for processing power.
But we all know that the Amico is going to beat out even PC. Let's be honest. It's going to be the console of the generation.
Yes.
So, but listen to this. What if the Steam box? What if somebody tried this? What if Gabe Newell of Steam said, "I'm going to do a plan, and I'm going to work with, I don't know, some online thing, and give you a computer, like a $1,500 or $2,000 computer. It's got all the good gaming stuff for now. Of course, you'd have to upgrade if you wanted, and you have to pay into my service, but you'd have you'd have the Steam, and maybe you'd have something like what the PlayStation and Xbox have, like free games. But then you'd also have, we'll give you a plan where you would be on our servers instead of like the phone lines. So you'd have phone through the internet. Like they have all these things. Like they have, I forget what it is, but it's this little bubble guy, and he runs around. They go, "Why are you tethered to a Verizon? You should go to the mobile on the internet." And it's like, if somebody combined all these things, like you could have your Netflix, like not Netflix, but a service like that where you could see movies, this, that, everything all at once, one package. I don't know how much it would cost, but whatever it was, if it was less than what you're paying individually for your phone, for your Netflix,
Right.
for your HBO, and then you get a computer on top of that, I mean, then nobody would want consoles or anything else anymore. They would have their PC, they would get all the ports. The only thing that they wouldn't have is exclusives, you know? So I don't know. Do you think, could you see a future where that happens?
I could see a future where something similar might happen. I think it's feasible to think that under certain circumstances that Valve, the parent corporation of Steam, could do something where they would say give you a computer and basically, so like when you get DirecTV or AT&T and you have TV through them,
Yeah.
you get their hardware and you
Yes,
you pay
you're
for it,
leasing
but it's inside.
You're leasing it.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's inside the bill. It's integrated. So I could see Valve doing something like that in the future.
The
But
problem
they would
with
need to
that-
work really hard to do that.
The problem with that is when you do all what you just said, when you return it, they just re-put it out there. But if I returned a 3-year-old PC, it'd be worthless. They almost literally just throw things away. The PC gets upgraded so fast that in
It's
a
not
few
like
years,
that anymore.
well, hopefully it's not like that anymore, because it just seems so silly that you buy something and then I'm not saying that I'm not saying like somebody in me wouldn't mind a 10-year-old technology. I'm saying that the elitists, they're like, oh, that's last year's stuff. I can't even play if it's not 250 FPS. I'm like, what? I don't even notice the difference between 30 and 60. But I do know that it's supposed to be smoother and you'll get less of this these problems. That's why I want to play at 60. Not because my perception can be that way, but I know that gameplay is affected. And I've seen videos where I've seen the effects. I just can't register them in real time. You know what I'm saying?
It's also, you can't just like jump from playing at 30 to playing at 60 and have an immediate difference. Like your body, your eyes, your brain have to be retrained. So like it's something that you have to adapt to. But when it comes to what you were talking about with how PCs are always getting better and whatnot, 10 to 15 years ago, absolutely 100%, like Moore's law was in full swing, you know, every generation the transistor count doubled. We're not doing that anymore. Like
so now it's less law? No, just kidding.
Kind of. I mean, okay, so for a full generation cycle nowadays for a CPU, you generally get a 15 to 20% increase.
Really?
Whereas 10 years ago, it was 100. It was a doubling.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, it was a doubling.
So
yeah.
we're reaching
a
point.
Are you hearing that? Sorry. Are you hearing? There's thunder in the background. Anyways, go on. As long as you're not hearing it.
We're reaching a point where it's getting harder and harder to make stuff smaller. Like they're dealing with the architecture and CPUs. They're dealing with things that are so small that they have to take in quantum physics into account when they're producing these chips.
Yeah.
So you can't get that much faster anymore. So like my computer,
it's like the law of diminishing returns, kind of, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You're always trying to get, but you can never get, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy, though. I never knew that. I always saw these memes online that Moore's law was broken or Moore's law was dead or something. And I thought, I guess it's true, but I never knew that. Like you said, the increase is only 15%. That's
15 to 20,
crazy.
yeah.
I think you did
that's on the top
you did
end
a video or you talked about it on a stream or something about how there's no even point. I think it was on your Two Brothers podcast. There's not even a point to get the latest stuff because it's just for the money. It's just not worth it anymore.
No, I bought my computer. I fully bought it last year, about this time last year, and I paid between $1,200 and $1,300 for it. I got a really good deal, but that's besides the point. And I built it.
Fell off a truck, but that's the. Just kidding.
I built it for that price, and you know, it's only a mid-range PC in today's standards. So, you know, the $1,000 to $1,500 is mid-range these days. But I can play. My computer will outperform in every way, shape, and form any console that's coming out, and I can do anything that I want from a work standpoint, like whether it be graphics work or video compositing or 3D rendering. I can do all of that stuff. So, and yeah,
that's awesome about PCs. I mean, they're so versatile.
I'm on, like, I'm always looking at what next generation is going to be, and I released a video recently, a few weeks ago, about why not to buy the brand new Intel CPUs, because it doesn't make sense to buy them, because they're losing market share, and because AMD is finally a real competitor in the space, and their next generation CPUs are coming out at the end of this year. So why would you buy Intel's inferior product now just because it's now?
Yeah. do you think AMD really got a boost from being the main, you know, person for the consoles? I mean, that's a lot of money, you know.
Oh yeah,
when you're
absolutely.
Don't they do all three of them? I think they do Nintendo's as well.
No, Nintendo. Okay, so
wait, that's Nvidia. That's
Nvidia does Nintendo. So, but it's bigger than you think, though, because both the play. I'm just gonna say PlayStation and Xbox. Both the PlayStation and Xbox have not only AMD graphics processors, but their main processors as well are brand new AMD chips. So that's a twofold. And they just took a 200 million-ish, 200 to 250 million units times 2. That's what they just sold. Like that's the order they just sold and filled. So they just took almost all of the gaming market share in one fell swoop.
Yeah. And then they can just put a lot of that back into their PC research and stuff, because it's going to help their console, you know, down the road anyway, because they use basically the same architecture. Now, here, before we get into the next topic, I do want to ask about this. So you saying PC is great, and the one thing that I can say that consoles have is it some console exclusivity, but Xbox has got this weird strategy where they're like, we're going to put everything on PC. And EA used to have Origins, but now they're putting all their stuff on Steam. If you have a regular, you know, if you have a PC and you have a Steam account, you can get most everything. Like, what is Xbox doing? What's the long goal for this? Is it the service? Are they really going to get that much on this service?
No, it's not the service. They just know that primary PC gamers are not going to go to console, and primary console gamers aren't going to go to PC. So they know they have their market on the console. Those people are still going to buy the games on the console. So opening it up to PC is just making it so that they can take more market share, as opposed to trying to sell a console to a PC enthusiast who's never going to buy a console. They can sell a $60 game. So they're
trying to have it both ways?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, because I understand more the Sony strategy. Not to say that it's the best strategy or the winning strategy, but it's the old tried and true. We build a console, we close it off, we sink a lot of cost into these big you know, Horizon Zero Dawns or the Order 1886, which was a flop, but they sink a lot of money into those to try to attract people to get to it, and they figure, well, then we get money from the GTAs that sell on our system. Right. We don't have to make the GTA, but we get like 30% off every one that's sold because it's a closed system.
Which is why they've remade the latest one, like, I don't know, 3 times now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're making their money. Yeah. They're making bank. Yeah. So
Pete says you're such a fanboy, a Sony fanboy.
Who's a fanboy? I don't see anybody's chat, but is there a lot of people in chat? Hi, chat.
Hi, chat.
Down there. Yeah. Hi.
So far, it's just Pete
I'm a
and Jeremy.
BlusTech.
But yeah, Pete
That's
definitely says that you're a Sony fanboy.
oh, listen, Pete. I have what 4 or 5 PSPs. I have a Vita. I have a Vita TV. I have two PlayStation 2s hooked up at the same time. A PlayStation 3, a PlayStation 4. I don't know about this PlayStation 5, but I mean, I have them all, and I don't need a PlayStation 1 because my PlayStation 2 and 3 can play one. So speaking of all this tech and all this dollars and 1,500 and 2,000, I don't understand these rumors about the price of the Xbox Series S, the Lockhart. Which funny enough, somebody I don't know if it's Cyberpunk or somebody released a press release for their game, and they accidentally called it Lockhart, but it was Lockhart. And $200. Now come on, $200.
Never gonna happen.
How in the world could it ever happen? Now
they will take a 30 to 40% loss on the console if they do that. They're already taking an 20-ish% loss on the Series X. They're never going to do that on the lower end one, which is supposed to bring more people in. Like,
yeah, I just don't understand that. Now
it might be 300. But
here's a question for you,
not
technically. So let's say it's 300. So we kind of we've put our jeweler's loop on it, and we've looked down at it and said, okay, they probably can't make it for less than 300. What do you think it's going to look like?
Oh, it's still going to cost them $450 to make.
Yeah. They're going to lose. That's the tried and true. We lose money on the system because it's a closed ecosystem, and we're hoping that the third parties will, make up the cost because it's a closed system. They have to pay to play,
exactly,
so to speak. So everybody thinks it's going to be half of the size of the Xbox Series X, and it's just going to look like a GameCube. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I understand the thought of that, but then can they fit all of that in half?
That's
and
a cute
cooling,
thought.
I understand the cooling is a tower, so it makes sense that it's a tower. When you cut it down to that much, is it really? I mean, why not make it almost the same size, just a different color and without a disc or something? Okay.
So
why make it like a tiny little thing?
There are two possible outcomes in my mind.
Okay,
so my one theory has been pretty widely known, is that the Xbox Series S is a direct continuation from the Xbox One X. It is so the Xbox One X was a brand new console. They did not launch it as such, but it was a brand new console. Like it doubled the amount of GPU compute power inside the console. It was brand new.
But it didn't just do 1080.
No, it did 4K.
These things are, well, they're saying this is just going to do 1080, but it's just going to be the better graphics. I don't understand that. But
so I think that what's going to happen is it will have 4K support, which means it'll probably be upscaling 1080 to 4K.
Like checkerboarding, like the PlayStation did, or
Yeah. So it'll probably do that. But back to the console size itself. So if it is direct lineage with the Xbox One X, then I would probably posit that they're either going to use basically the exact same internals from the One X and just slightly new shell, so it'll be around the same size.
Okay, I've only seen the Xbox One X black and the one that was the Gears of Wars that was the Frost.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just paint it white and use the same shells and save money?
Because then they couldn't market it as a brand new product.
No, it would be called the Series S. They'd take
they
them
couldn't
all,
call it that. Because it'd be the same. It'd be everybody would look at it and see that's a series, or that's an Xbox One X.
Did you see the Calico Chameleon? That thing had the Atari shell, everything. Come on. And of course, it was vaporware, but we won't get down that
But
rabbit hole.
so the other direction that I feel that it could go is it will have the exact, so it'll either be a slightly smaller version of the Xbox One X, or it'll be the exact same as the Series
Dimensions?
X.
Okay.
No, the exact same case. Why would you get brand new tooling,
That's
millions of dollars on brand new tooling, when you're already releasing a brand new console? Just put a different logo on it and put different internals in it.
Yeah, and here's the
Done.
thing. PlayStation 5 has black and white and a little bit of blue tint. And Xbox One had black, and then the S was white. Why not make it a different color? I mean, there's more than black and white in this world. Why not make it blue? I think that'd be cool.
Because the only recent Xbox that was blue was the Deep Sea Blue Gears of War console.
If you were a consumer and you were told that you could get for $300 a next gen that would play it just at 1080, 60 frames, but you could play all the Halos or all that stuff, all the next gen for the next 7 years, you wouldn't care if it was blue or red or black or white. But it would be unique. They always try to make the shape unique, but let's make the actual color unique.
So
like make it
we've
purple.
got
I like the purple. Remember the GameCube purple? Or
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
We've got a question in chat from Nicholas Dobry. Sorry. Do you guys, with the new generation consoles coming out, think that I should buy a new TV? No one has talked about this. Will older TVs make the graphics look less good? It depends on how you're going to be playing. If you want to play in 1080p, then chances are you don't need to change anything. If you want 1080p at 120 frames per second, you're gonna have to go out and buy a 1080p TV that can do 120 frames per second. Otherwise, it'll say you're doing it, but you won't actually see the difference.
And do your research, because a lot of them are using these numbers like 120, or they'll say 240, but that's not really the actual hertz or whatever. It's not actual the refresh rate. Sometimes you have to divide it by 2.
Yeah.
And so you're not getting what you think you're getting. So do your research. I don't know why it's not standardized. I mean, technology like that should be standardized. It seems like a wild, wild west. But for Nicholas, I would say this. I think Aaron's correct. BlusTech is correct with it's the way you want to use it. I had a CRT for the 360 and the PlayStation 3 for the longest time, and I did not understand why things were blotchy and walls looked weird. But I will tell you, then when I upgraded to a 1080, it looked better. But now that I have a 4K, I can even play. I'm playing something, and this is a tease for the PM and the PM tomorrow. I'm playing something that's for the PlayStation, and I'm on the cheapest 50-inch TV. It was $200 at Walmart. It's not the best. It doesn't have HDR, all that stuff. Because here's the thing. I'm playing a PlayStation 1 game. The guy is like 3.5 inches tall, on the screen. And I love it. I could see all the jagged edges of this PlayStation 1. It's crystal clear, for the time. Of course, the muddy backdrop, but the actual polygons are sharp. And I'm enjoying that. Now, when I was playing those games on the old systems, they didn't have the same kind of pop to them. And eventually I will get a one with HDR, and then the old games will look even better. So I always try, because I'm cheap, but also in my mind, I try to be a generation or two behind the technology, because the technology that I'm buying now, 5 years from now, everybody like, I want the next thing. And I'm like, all I have to do is upgrade the TV, and that old technology that's 5 years old actually looks brand new to me. Because I'm not even current yet, but I'm loving the things I'm watching and playing.
That kind of
So
expands on into another, if then situation. It also
mhm.
depends not just how you want to play the game, but also what your budget is. So
Yes,
if
budget.
you don't have a budget, then wait 6 months and buy an 8K TV because they will be out by the end of the year. That being said,
Yeah,
if you're on a
don't budge
budget,
it unless
yeah,
you have a budget.
if you are on a budget, still wait 6 months till the 8K TVs come out because then you'll be able to buy a 4K TV in 6 months for the same price you would have paid for a 1080 TV today.
Exactly.
One
Oh,
with
I always,
HDR,
yeah.
with high contrast and able to actually see the ray tracing if that's what you want.
Yeah, and here's the funny thing. I impulse buyed that $200 one, but before that I was going to like Linus Tech and stuff and doing all those comparison of the TVs, and I scaled it down to like 2 TVs that I wanted, but they were like 100 or 200 more than what I got, and they were 40-inch TVs. And where I live now, I'm like 9 feet away, so I was like, I'd rather have the real estate, that the 50
Mm-hmm.
inches and have it like, listen, and I know it's not the best, but for me, going from a 32-inch 1080 to a 4K 50-inch, even if it's the worst one, it looks so much better for me. Now, for anyone else, the snobs of the world, hoity-toity, they wouldn't like it. But for me, I think that the improvement was worth the price. So I hope that answered your question.
I think we got it. He says, thanks for the information. So, no problem. Anytime. That's what we're here for.
Next topic. Backwards compatibility on the systems.
So,
why
that's
is it
not
so hard?
something I have done a lot of. Which ones have it? I know the Xbox is going to have it, but is the PlayStation? Because I haven't done a lot of research in this area.
Here's what I know so far. The Xbox has it on a lot of singular titles. So let's say you had a original Xbox game.
Hey, Michael.
You put it in.
Other Michael.
You put it in and it works. Oh, by the way, how's my my volume, everybody? Because I know that was something that I took away from some people asking me. But listen, so let's say there was 900 original Xbox games. Maybe about 400 of them work, which that's great. That's great. But that's not everybody. And what they're doing is they're emulating like one at a time, and they're increasing them, but I don't think they go back to Xbox anymore. I think they're just trying to do the 360, etc. So
there are a couple original games, at least for the Xbox One. There are a couple of original games that are backwards compatible.
Now that's what I'm saying. Like, but it's only like about half of the whole library.
Yeah.
So it's not full backwards compatible. Now for PlayStation 5, we've only heard that they're working on PlayStation 4 and 5 compatibility, but they don't have a whole list yet, and that's troubling. And I understand they can't do the 3. I know the 3 was all this cell processor technology, all that stuff. But here's the thing. I guess this is 2 questions for you. Why can't they do like 1 and 2? And also, I don't understand licensing, because if you license a game on PlayStation 1 or 2, why can't you just say, "Hey, put it on the shop,"
Okay. I gotcha.
What's the problem? Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
So, we'll start with that cuz I'll forget about it. But both of these things are pretty much the same. The hardware and the licensing is pretty much the same thing. With the licensing, yeah, they can totally get the licensing again, but they have to individually go back and get every single title and licensing for every single title that's ever been made. So that's a huge amount of work. No, I know. I don't personally care either. And as for the hardware side of things, first off, them saying that you can't emulate the PlayStation 3 is a load of bull, because you can. It's already been done on PC, and if it can be done on PC, which is a closed architecture, then you can do it on an architecture that you design. But my problem with not being able to do backwards compatibility listen here, Sony, Microsoft, both of you, this is real simple. You're designing a new console. Why don't you have that in mind when you design it? Design it in mind of being able to be backwards compatible from step one on. Because if you do that, you can still make preparations for all of the other stuff you want to do. But if you don't do it at the beginning, yeah, when you think of it at the end, when you've already built the console and it's already got its infrastructure locked in and its architecture locked in, it's going to be way harder because you thought of it as an afterthought instead of doing it from day one. Because frankly, your markets, Sony and Microsoft's markets, are not in the brand new games. They're in the 2,000, 8,000 games that have already been made. That's where the market is.
And with all these streaming services and Netflix, content is king in those platforms. I mean, Disney bought Fox just for their content. So, hey, think about it. You have the content. Work with it. But I will challenge you on this, Blues. You say that they should design it and they should be smart enough. But Mark Cerny he created NAC, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who is dumb enough to create NAC isn't smart enough to go backwards. I don't understand. People say he's a genius. He also made Jack 2. You ruined Jack. Jack did not have a gun. Jack did not hijack cars. Why did you ruin it? And he's like, well, we wanted to make it great, so we made these small little areas. No. Make them open space. It was a perfect game to begin with. You're ruining it for me, Mark. And he's so boring, by the way, when he talks. But hey, that's another topic. So you're saying it's the will. They don't have the will and they don't have the forethought to do this, right?
Yeah, and I mean, they're getting better. Like, Microsoft is getting better. They made, like, after the initial release of the Xbox One, the first initial release of the original Xbox One, they've made an enormous effort to make backwards compatibility. So much that they actually built an entire emulator for the 360. And that's what I mean when I say that if a bunch of hobbyists can go and do it on computer in their spare time, then you, as a multi-billion-dollar corporation who literally designed every aspect of the architecture, you guys can definitely do it 100%.
Well, and and it's also, people have to understand that competition works. This is something where Microsoft found a place where Sony was weak and they could distinguish themselves and separate their product and have that as a talking point, and they went for it. I don't know.
I've got to interrupt you here. That reminds me of something else Microsoft and Sony related.
Okay.
You know how about a month ago, Sony did their press release about the PS5 SSD and the architecture being so fast and this, that, and the other. Well, what did we hear from Microsoft about storage at the time? Nothing. And what do you hear about storage now? That it's faster. If not the same, faster than the PS5s. Woohoo! Like, it's a chess game. All of that is a chess game. It's just one trying to outmarket the other, which is also why you got the dual launch of the PS5, seeing both consoles right next to each other, and then the leak on the French website of the PS5's pricing right before they release or announce and release the Lockhart's pricing. It's just a chess game back and forth.
Yeah, but we're the pawns, okay? And I don't like to be the pawns. I like to be the rook or the bishop or the knight. I really, those pawns, and the reason why I don't like them is because they have those little bubble heads, and they're just not very detailed. I don't like them.
Yep.
I'm not a bubblehead. So, explain to me the increase. This is next topic. Explain to me the increase in the next generation from this, because I think a while back I was on PM in the PM, and I said I felt that the greatest leap was from PlayStation 1 to 2. That's what I saw as a great leap. And I didn't see the amount of, I saw the increase, but I didn't see the amount as great from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. But then you showed me this graph that totally blew away what I was saying. It said there was hardly any difference between 1 and 2, and then it just went whoof and just took off.
Yeah,
So
I'm
explain to me
looking
that.
for that graph right now. Give me just a moment.
Yeah, yeah, it was like a giraffe, the graph. I mean, it
Oh
had a
yeah,
long
it's
neck at the
crazy.
end, you know? Oh, boy. Is Pete still in there? Hey, Pete, how you doing? Are you still there? Don't worry, all these topics are different from ours. They're all tech topics. We've got the tech expert here. I mean, tech is in his name. How can you not at least use that, right?
Yeah, I've got the chart,
Anyways,
but it's
while you're looking for it, I
yeah,
just wanted to say
entertain
that
them.
the graph was actually the opposite of what my mind was thinking. So I was thinking as the generations went further, the leap in technology was less, whereas his graph showed that it was actually greater. Now, is that my mind playing tricks on me? Is that uncanny valley where as the closer you get to something that looks real, it doesn't feel real? Like I can love Spyro, and then I can see Spyro on PlayStation 2 and say, wow, it looks cooler because it's like a different cartoony, but it's better. But from the Resistance, Fall of Man, and Killzone to the next Killzone to the Call of Duties, they all look human, but they don't look fully human, you know?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what it is. It's like we're comparing in our mind, we're unconsciously comparing it to real life. So maybe that's what we're doing and saying, oh, well, it's not there yet. It's not there yet. And that's another thing. Why don't we make more cartoony games? Does Ratchet and Clank looked great? That was the best one that for me of that reveal. That looked the best. When you try to make
the
things
Ratchet
look
and
more human,
Clank.
you know, what?
I love the Ratchet and Clank games. They're my favorite.
Yeah, and when you compare it to something that is actually in the real world, then we can compare it to the real thing. And
right,
you're just not quite there yet, you know? I don't know. I think they can get away with more if they did like a Jack 2, but I mean Jack and Daxter, the precursor legacy, number 2, not Jack 2, which then he started talking. What was that about? Oh,
okay, so
Mark Cerny cut me to the quick. Anyways, go on.
I cannot find the original one that I sent you right now, but
Well,
I do have.
Close their eyes and picture a giraffe, but then draw a line of its back all the way to his neck. So it was a graph that looked like a giraffe.
Let's see here. No, it's this one.
It might have been designed by the company Kraft.
Okay. Yeah, it does not want to pull it up. Okay, so screw that.
It was almost as straight as a staff.
Anyways, I can
I think we all
read.
had a little laugh.
I can read the graph, for instance. Okay, so this is the PlayStation lineup in graphical compute power. So the PlayStation I have registered at 0 because it basically had no graphical compute power. It was mostly still 2D / 2.5D with a little bit of 3D. The PlayStation 2 did 6.2 G-flops or gigaflops of compute power. The PlayStation 3 did 251 gigaflops. And then the PlayStation 4 did 1,840 gigaflops.
Say it. What does that equate to? 1.8
teraflop? 1.84 teraflops. And the PlayStation 5 is going to do 10,280 gigaflops or 10.2 teraflops, which is 20% less than the Xbox Series X, which is 12 point something teraflops.
So have the games become any more fun? That's what I'd like to know.
I think it's less about being more fun at this point than it is about being immersive.
Yeah, yeah. But I will say this. When I went to Best Buy, and I saw the 4K TVs and they had an Xbox commercial, when they showed Tomb Raider, I don't know what was wrong, but it didn't look very realistic. Now, when they showed the first person game, that's, oh, I forget, it's that Russian game that you the first two you played in the subways, and then Metro Exodus. No, it's Metro, yeah, Exodus. That looked amazing. That looked amazing. But when they showed, like, and it might have been cutscenes even of Laura, the mud didn't look realistic. She looked okay, and the hair physics were kind of wonky. I don't know what's wrong with that. Why? It seems like it's better than before, but it's certainly not up there.
So Mike from the original
Hi, Mike.
Next Level Gaming says the
Yeah, the
PlayStation,
original Mike. I'm just a clone.
the original PlayStation 1 could do 180,000 textures per second, or 360 flat shaded polygons per second, and that it was quite the 3D powerhouse in its day. And yes, by those scales, I agree it was. However, that being said, it still does not even register at the 1 gigaflop or half a gigaflop in actual graphical compute power.
You want to hear something funny? My youngest son Nick, for the memes, when PlayStation 4 came out, he bought 4 PlayStation 1s and stacked them up. He says, "There you go. There's PlayStation 4." Yeah. Of course, he knew better, but it was just for the memes.
By the PlayStation,
this is my kid.
PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 2, boom, PlayStation 5.
There you go. I have a PlayStation 3 and 2 PlayStation 2s. So what do I have? Like the PlayStation 7?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Oh my gosh.
You're ahead of the curve, Mike.
I am ahead of the curve. Oh, that's crazy. I think that was the last thing that we had was the increase in next gen. I don't know if you wanted to go over anything else. I mean, we could leave that other topic for next week because it's a evergreen. As hey, listen, everybody thinks I have a radio voice. Well, that's an evergreen. All right.
Well, we can open it up for any questions. Jam it.
Yeah, questions below.
Yeah, anybody have any questions from the chat that we might or might not be able to answer?
We're taking all callers today. Hey, shout out to Mike, the original.
Yes, the OG NLG.
The OG MLG.
Also known as Lieutenant Stinger.
Yes. It took me forever to figure out that those were the two same people.
You're not the only one. I played, we were playing Bridge Commander, Star Trek Bridge Commander the other day, and he was my helmsman, so I was calling him Lieutenant Stinger.
That's awesome. How is that game, by the way?
Oh, it's great. It's definitely a very unique experience. It's unlike, I mean, I've played a lot of PC games, but it is unlike any other experience. You have to communicate. Like, the whole thing is about communicating and, being able to all be on the same page or not. Stinger. So
let me ask you this. Did it run you through anything like the Kobayashi Maru?
Yes, actually, when you first start the game and you do the tutorial, that is one of the things that you go through is the Kobayashi Maru test.
Awesome.
However, that being said, it you don't die at the end. Spoiler alert.
That's not right.
Yeah, that's not awesome.
It's a no-win scenario. Only one person, and listen, only one person ever beat the Kobayashi Maru. And that was Captain Kirk.
And exactly. So if they would actually make it the same test, they would be setting people up to try and hack their game to beat it. It's optics.
Listen, listen, he never dealt with death. how we deal with death is as important as how we deal with life. That's what he was trying to
Okay,
teach
Spock.
Savick. Listen, I will tell you this. The one thing that got me
Kirk
a
used
little
a
bit
game
bummed
genie,
out,
says Super Jeremy World.
the guy who created Savick, Michael Meyer, I think that's his name, Michael Meyer. No, is it Nicholas Meyer? Michael Meyer.
Let's just go with Meyer.
Anyways, he was the director. He didn't even know anything about Star Trek, and they gave him 3 scripts and 48 hours to put them all together. Now, I think the script had Kobayashi Maru, but he made Savick as kind of like a foil, because and he also wrote for the number 4. He wrote all the parts that were in Los Angeles.
Voyage Home.
San Francisco. Yeah. Voyage Home, San Francisco, in modern day.
Nuclear
so
vessels.
All those parts, the funny parts. Then he wrote for number 6, and he wanted Savick to be the one that betrayed everybody. But then they said, no, the fans won't like that. I don't care what the fans would like. Have some integrity.
I don't think the fans would have given a crap.
Listen, it made sense because Savick watched Kirk's son die, so it would make sense, and then it would be more powerful when she confronted Kirk, say, didn't you say let them die, all this stuff, didn't they kill your son? She could have said, I was there, that would have been very powerful. But no, they had to make somebody else. But they did have a good actress for that, Kim Cattrall. So
to answer Super Jeremy World's very baited question, I do not know which processor is going to be in the Amico. I can narrow it down to 3 brands for you, which actually does a lot more for you than you might think. But
to Pete had a video. Does it really matter? Who cares? Does it really matter?
I'm a tech person. That's not why I'm buying the Amico, but it matters to me. So, but the 3 brands are, and these are not in any order, so don't read into it, because I'm mixing them up on purpose, because I'm fairly certain I know which one it is.
Okay.
Intel, Qualcomm, and AMD. Those are the 3 that it could be, the makers. There are at least a dozen more makers of processors in the world, like IBM.
I don't know. Are graphics really everything? Isn't it just about the games? It's all about the games.
So, okay, I can justify why even with the Amico, why I would want to know. And that is, yeah, we know what the console can do on the surface right now. Okay, but as we know with other consoles, whether they're top-tier consoles like the PlayStation 5 is going to be, or whether they're mid-tier consoles like the Nintendo Switch Lite, okay? Mm-hmm. We know what they're going to do graphically now is nothing like what they're going to do graphically at end of life cycle. Because at end of life cycle, everything's going to be more enhanced. Everything's going to be better technologies, better development processes. So the question of knowing what's inside of it is going to dictate, kind of a course of action that's going to happen over the life cycle of the console.
But the way I think about it is, even though some of it has 3D, a lot of it's 2D, and maybe I'm just being silly, but the Super Nintendo, the end of the life cycle now, and I know what you're going to do, say the graphics chip, everybody loves Star Fox. It looked like poop. Okay, let's be honest. Let's leave the super graphics chip off of it. Super Mario World was the first game on the system. It wasn't a pack-in, and nothing looked better than that. And they had 3 Star Wars games, and the first one looked, the second one looked great. The third one looked like puke. So, as like for 2D, sometimes it doesn't always, the end of the life cycle doesn't always produce the best quality game.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that. And that
more people on the screen, but I don't know.
And I'm not saying that it will, for every game, produce better graphical, fidelity. What I'm saying is that the the console needs to be able to keep up with developers who do want to go a little bit further as they, you know, learn the console better and its capabilities better.
Well,
so like,
but they're curating all of them, so they are the publishers.
yeah, and I'm telling you right now that day one launch games are not going to look anything like year 3 launch games.
But who's to say year 3 launch games will look, let's say it's graphically capable of doing 10 times better graphics than year 1. What if he only produces it to be 3 times?
That's fine.
Like, what's the incentive if you own all the games? What's the incentive to I think
buy
the
more
reason
games?
Why we what?
If you already own a bunch of games, the incentive to what is your incentive to buy more games? It's either newer graphics, which give you more more immersion,
he's marketing
or
to families, so
yeah,
he's marketing fun. So if he goes along, if he says graphics don't matter, look at the other people, they're chasing graphics, we're about the fun. And then he turns around and next year all his things look 10 times better. They'll be like, well, I thought you said the graphics don't matter. I think he wants to have it like a certain, I think he wants to have a certain floor and a certain ceiling and everything be like that. I don't think he wants to go too far high or low.
No, I agree with you completely. I'm not saying that it's going to be a drastic change, the difference between Unreal 4 and Unreal 5.
Change,
right. Yeah. However, I am saying that there will definitely be room. There should be room built into the console spec to account for increases in graphical fidelity. Because yes, it's not something that they're aiming to do. It's not part of their target audience, but let's put it this way. If the next Amico console, the next Intellivision console has the same graphics as this one, no one's going to buy it.
Oh, the next one won't have the same graphics.
No, I know, but that's my point, right?
Well, here's the thing. I think the next one won't even have the same controller. I think he wants to keep going on something like, if you think about the Wii as being the, if you think about the Amico being the spiritual successor to the Wii, a lot of the thought process of the Wii is the thought process of this. So you'd have to think of, okay, well, what's the next thing? And I don't know what the next thing that he wants to do, but it has to be more integrating into what the families want. That's what I think.
Right. Well, see, my thing is, I don't think that
Power Glove. I think the Power Glove. It's cool. It's so bad.
I do not think that this is a one-off console. I'm hoping that this will be the start of a series of consoles that all push
the
that
Amico 360.
That all push that, Nintendo Wii vibe, but they all keep pushing it. And like you said, yeah, if there is another Amico, it's not going to look the same. Well, to counteract your previous arguments, what's the point of that? He's going to alienate his audience because it's not about graphics. Well, then why is the next console going to look better?
No, I don't mean look in the graphics. I mean, like, the actual controller won't be.
See, I was talking about graphics.
I mean, like, it'll be something like you put it on your head this time, or
right.
I don't know, but I don't want to say the word because it's a bad word, but a gimmick. Yeah. I think he needs to get the next gimmick. I think that always is connotated as a bad word, but that's what it is. It's a gimmick. But see, yeah,
my biggest argument against
if your whole thing is the gimmick,
Yeah, my whole thing against the graphics won't get better on the console or on the Amico thing is if graphics truly didn't matter, then you would have Intellivision graphics, original Intellivision graphics, because we would already have an Amico right now.
Our audience below still plays Intellivision.
Yeah, but the audience below makes up about 1% of who Tommy's marketing to.
I know.
Like, but that's all I'm trying to say. Like, if graphics really didn't matter, then we wouldn't be getting the Amico.
Graphics matter. But,
so it's it's a scale on how much they matter. And I think that over a 7 to 10 year lifespan of the console, that definitely needs to be a buffer zone built in there, which if I don't know what the processor is before the launch, I will after, and I'll be publicizing it. But if I
Do
don't
you
know
take it
before,
apart live?
yeah,
Will you have a? Okay, cool.
yeah, as soon as I hear the knock on my door, delivering it to my house, I'm going to start the camera, and everybody will be with me as I take it into the room and start taking it apart. I will not even turn it on first.
Sweet. That's awesome.
But
Well, we can't get better
yeah.
than that. I think we've actually gone over a little bit, but
A little bit. So why don't you tell people where to find you at?
I'm at Mike's Oasis. I don't like to promote my channel, but that's where I'm at. But this guy over here, he should promote
Other
himself.
side.
He's doing awesome things.
Yeah, so we'll be doing this maybe every week, maybe every other week. It's
I don't
tentative
mind
at this
every
moment.
week. I think we can get enough topics. Mostly it's my questions and your answers. I learn a lot from this.
These were all your questions this week, so
Yeah, well, I mean, you can come up with questions, but see, I don't know anything, and you know everything, so it's a good kind of, Laurel and Hardy.
yeah, it makes a good dynamic. So
Yeah.
but yeah, you can find all my content on my channel, linked directly below. Mike's stuff is also in the description below, so if you're not subscribed to him, go and do that. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight, and we'll catch you later.